Now we come to the third site called Bharatpur, which is located in the Buddhist police station in the district of Bardhaman, about 3 kilometers southeast of the Panagarh railway station, and can be easily approached. On the left bank of the Damodar river in the larger Ajay Damodar interfluves. The mound encompasses about 3 acres of land along with the peripheral scatters, the actual outline being approximately 75 by 75 by 6 meter. The site was subjected to excavation between 1971 and 75 by the Eastern Circle of the SI in collaboration with the University of Burdwan. On the basis of the stratigraphic and material evidences, the following chronological sequence of the cultures at the site has been proposed. Period 1 is Neolithic Chalcolithic, period 2 is Iron Age, and period 3 is Gupta and post-Gupta period, and period 4 is between 800 and 900 CE. Historical character of Bharatpur in terms of artifactual assemblage is inadequately known for 2 reasons. Number 1 is limited scale of excavation, and number 2 is paucity of published material of this enormously rich site. The Gupta phase is dated on the ground of discovery of a single piece of massive brick, I quote from excavator's report, and associated pottery, although this is not at all quite clear from the report. The Pala period settlement at the site is represented by a beautifully decorated brick stupa and some images of the Buddha. The plan of the structure, however, has remained unpublished. Although the second period has been termed as the Iron Age, the discovery of the NBPW and numerous BSW specimens from the upper levels of this period will force one to rethink over the cultural uniformity of this occupation level. The site has been recently re-excavated by the ASI under the direction of Shubha Majumdar. The results of the excavation are expected soon. This new phase of digging has revealed a number of structural materials associated with the existing complex and is expected to throw welcome light on the Buddhist archaeological history of the site. The reports are expected shortly. Now from Bardhaman I will move to the southwestern part of Bengal, southwestern and southern part of Bengal, bordering the Sundarbans on one hand and the western Bengal on the other. Here we have 2 sites called Mohalmari and Konkondekhi. Mohalmari was subjected to excavation under the Department of Archaeology, University of Calcutta, under the direction of late lamented Ashok Datta for 6 academic seasons from 2003-04 to 2011-12 with of course intermittent gaps. The primary objective was to scientifically expose the nature of buried structure, then number 2 to establish the cultural sequence of the site and to correlate the different components of the site in understanding the nature of settlements there, and number 3 to examine if the general identification of the Dantan area with the early medieval administrative division of Dandabhukti can be demonstrated with archaeological remains excavated from the site. Excavation was undertaken at 3 different locales of the site named MGM 1, 2 and 3. MGM 1 is represented by the Shashi Sena mound having an elevation of about 1 meter from the surrounding ground level. MGM 2 is a site within the habitation area of the village having interesting habitation deposits of the black and red ware phase overlain by a structural complex, and MGM 3 is represented again by habitation deposits datable to early medieval period this time. While MGM 2 and 3 were excavated only in 2004 and 2007 respectively, MGM 1 was thoroughly dug in all the seasons. An internal report of the results of excavation in the first 2 seasons was published in 2008, followed by 2 notes on subsequent excavations till 2010. However, material evidence unearthed in the last 2 seasons have mostly remained unpublished. Since 2013-14, excavation at the site was taken up by the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums of the Government of West Bengal. However, apart from a note on the excavation of the first season, nothing has so far published from the second phase. Of the wealth of evidence recovered during prolonged excavation of 6 seasons at the site, the most important class of artifacts consisted of a number of circular clay tablets containing rather unique iconographic depictions and engraved with the well-known Yedharma stanza written in Brahmi characters of 6th century CE. These tablets, with an average diameter of 7 cm, can be divided into 3 types, primarily on the basis of iconographic program displayed on them. While the first 2 types are composed of the figures of Buddhist painted in a somewhat peculiar and hitherto unknown iconographic composition with a larger central figure of the Buddha in varying seated postures, flanked by two standing figures on either side and bracketed by two more figures. The third type shows a central larger stupa figure surrounded by several tiny stupikas or smaller stupas across the flank of the tablet. These tablets have recently been subjected to a detailed study based on their iconographic and stylistic characteristics, as well as archaeological contexts of their occurrence. A comparative study of the iconography of the Buddhist painter and triad depicted on the Mughalmari tablets and their close parallels found on clay tablets and stone imageries from Western Deccan and parts of Southeast Asia suggest that these unique molds formed part not only of the esoteric monastic environment of the site itself, but also that of the larger network of linkages between the Buddhist establishments of South and Southeast Asia. The second class of artifacts from the sites are found mostly in situ on the western outer wall of the monastic complex, located to the eastern part of the mound. They consist of a row of life-size sculptures made of stucco, embedded on the square niches of the plinth, intersected by pilasters plastered with lime and topped by crowning lotuses. Similar sets of material also embellished the eastern and southern bordering walls of the complex, but unfortunately these are mostly damaged due to pressure of the overlying structural elements. What is preserved on the southern wall, however, is the smooth plaster of lime exposed down to the ground level. 2 seasons of intensive digging along the western wall resulted in the discovery of altogether 15 niches, of which 13 contained sculptures in stucco. Of these 13 pieces excavated, the major identifiable specimens is an icon of Kuvera or Jambhala seated in Pratyalira with usual attributes, holding a citron in the right hand and a money purse in the left. The execution of the ornamental details with prominent foils of the lower garment, sharp curves of the facial attributes and an overall softness of expression would put the specimen in the category of a predominantly individualistic variety of modeling rather than exhibiting attributes of the grotesque variety, as manifested in most of the Gana figures found there. A representation of a dancing couple also shows a somewhat similar attempt by the artist to execute figural details modeled in slender frame. Overall, the stucco sculptures from the site appear to attest to a date around the 7th century, as in most of the stucco bearing sites of eastern India. The third set of artifacts of special interest from Mughalmari is represented by an extensive variety of designed bricks, enormous variety underlying the lime plaster and decorative elements in stucco. Although decorative bricks form an integral part of Buddhist monastic architectural compositions, as you know, in the early medieval period, these elements have not been subjected to a detailed art historical and contextual study. Xuanzang had reported the existence of 10 monastic complexes in the vicinity of Tamralipta in the 7th century. It is usually regretted that not a single Buddhist establishment from the larger geographical orbit of Tamralipta is known till date. However, the discovery at Mughalmari has now provided unimpeachable evidence of a monastic complex in southwestern Bengal that flourished during the time of Xuanzang's travels in Bengal. Moving further west across the tidally active delta, one reaches the Sundarbans within West Bengal. On the border of the younger alluvium and the active coast, in the Raidigi police station of South 24 Parganas district, is located the cluster of 3 mounds at a village called Kankandiki. Though the limited scale of excavation at 2 sides of these mounds called Pilkhana and Matbari could not reveal the plan of a monastery, the artifacts recovered from the sites were clear indications of an early medieval Buddhist establishment. We have also found images in terracotta and stone from the same site of Buddhist deities. So, of course, the site is that of either a Buddhist monastery or of a Buddhist temple. So, we have altogether 5 Buddhist sites so far excavated in West Bengal, starting from northern Bengal to the extreme southwestern Bengal bordering Sundarbans. So, friends, I hope from this lesson we have been able to illustrate the potential of West Bengal's Buddhist archaeological past and to enable one to conceive of a larger Buddhist tourism circuit in West Bengal comprising of different sectors, one centering around North Bengal, one centering around what can be called Central West Bengal, and the other one centering around the southwestern part, of which of course the southwestern part is the most promising zone as it appears. I am sure this course will help you understand in larger context the nature of Buddhist tourism and the potential of Buddhist tourism in West Bengal. Thank you so much for viewing.